Today, we're going to unwrap the incredible story behind one of the world's most beloved foods. And believe me, it's so much more than just a recipe. It's a tale of medicine, kindness, and an act of compassion that has been warming people for almost 2,000 years. So, have you ever sat down to a nice, warm plate of dumplings on a really cold day and just thought, man, this hits the spot? Well, it turns out that feeling isn't a coincidence at all. That comfort is kind of the whole point, and the reason why goes way back to a brutal winter in ancient China. To get to the bottom of it, we have to go back in time, way back to the chaotic final days of the Eastern Han Dynasty. We're going to join a man on a long, freezing journey home. And just so you know, this isn't just a story about food. It's a story about survival. All right, let's get into it. The hero of our story is a man named Zhang Junjing. Now, he was a big deal, a high-ranking official, but history would remember him by a completely different title, the medical sage. So, who was this guy, really? Well, even though he had a powerful government job, his real passion, his true calling, was medicine. He was known for being an incredibly honest guy, but even more for his deep compassion. He was actually a specialist in treating illnesses caused by cold damage, and he cared way more about helping regular people feel better than he ever did about playing politics. And so, picture this. During a winter so unbelievably cold that it literally went down in the history books, he quit his job, he just resigned, he packed up all his medical books and his herbs, and started the long, hard journey back to his hometown. It was a trip that was about to change everything. But as he traveled home, what he saw along the way was, well, it was horrifying. The title of this section really says it all, The Winter of Frozen Ears. It was a truly shocking sight. You see, Zhang Zongjing, being a brilliant physician, understood exactly what was happening to the people he met. When your body is facing extreme cold and hunger, it makes a terrible choice. To keep your heart and your vital organs warm and functioning, it starts shutting down blood flow to your extremities. And the first things to suffer from this brutal sacrifice? The ears. As Zhang Zongjing himself wrote, blood cannot reach the extremities, so the ears lose their life. All around him, he saw poor, starving people whose ears were in terrible shape. And we're not talking about a little frostnip here. The effects were just devastating. The villagers' ears were swollen, numb, and painfully hard. One text described them as looking like frosted leaves. In the worst cases, the tissue was already starting to decay. He saw this, and he knew. He couldn't just keep walking. So this is where everything changes. On the winter solstice, the absolute coldest day of the year, this compassionate sage decided he had to do something. He wasn't just going to treat one or two people. No, he was going to cook up a cure in a giant pot for everyone. He told his assistants to set up a big medical tent right in the middle of town. And here's the amazing part. He didn't ask for a single thing. He used his own precious supplies, the very herbs and food he needed for his own journey, to create a remedy for these strangers. Now, this wasn't just some random soup he threw together. Oh no, this was a brilliant medical prescription disguised as a hot meal. He chose mutton because it's incredibly warming and nourishing. He added ginger, which is essential for driving cold out of the body. Other spices were in there to make the whole thing even more powerful. And the dough? Well, the dough was the genius delivery system. And all of this led to the creation of something he called jiao'er. It was so much more than just food. It was a clever, ingenious solution for providing lasting internal warmth. I mean, think about it for a second. A cup of hot broth? It feels great, but the warmth disappears pretty quickly. Zhang Zongjing faced a real problem. How could he get the warming effects of the mutton and herbs to stay in the body longer, to really fight that deep, bone-chilling cold from the inside out? His method was it was simple, but absolutely brilliant. First, he would finely chop up all those medicinal ingredients. Then, he'd wrap that potent filling inside a simple little dough wrapper. And finally, he would boil these little packages in the very same broth they were cooked in, just soaking them in even more warmth. So, he had his delivery system figured out. The medicine needed to be wrapped, but what shape should he make them? This wasn't just a random choice. It was a decision that came straight from his heart. He shaped them to look like little ears. He called his invention jiao'er, which means tender ears. a remedy shaped like the very thing it was designed to heal. It was just this beautiful, powerful symbol of his empathy for the suffering people he was trying to help. And the most incredible thing, it worked. This single act of medical genius and pure kindness didn't just fade away into history, it started a tradition of warmth that has survived for centuries, transforming from a one-time cure into a custom cherished by millions. So, after several days of eating these tender ears, something amazing happened. The villagers' painful, frostbitten ears actually started to heal. The swelling went down, the sores began to close up, they could feel them again. For them, it must have seemed like an absolute miracle. So how did we get from this one-time medicine to the dumplings we eat today? Well, after Zhang Zhongjing continued on his journey, the people kept making his remedy every winter to honor him. Over time, the name started to change a bit. Tender ears became correcting ears. Eventually, it became jiaozi, the word for dumpling we use today, which sounds almost exactly the same as the original. And that's the key right there. The custom of eating dumplings, especially on the winter solstice, was born as an act of remembrance. It was a way for future generations to honor the medical sage's incredible kindness, and to carry on that idea that a warm meal shaped like an ear could protect you on the coldest day of the year. This whole story really comes down to this one simple but profound idea. Zhang Zhongjing knew that true healing isn't just about medicine. To truly warm the body, you first have to warm the heart. His Jiao did both. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. The next time you're sharing a meal with people you care about on a cold day, maybe you'll see more than just food on the table. Maybe you'll see a story. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing stories of kindness and creativity are hidden in the foods and traditions that we all cherish?